Warning: this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences. My fetish destroyed my life. 6 Hopeless Confessions of Reddit. I am having an affair with my wife's mother. I know that what I'm doing is terrible. I swear I'm not typing this to get any sort of approval, I'm doing it to get it off of my chest. My wife and I are 19. We've been together for 3 years and got married 5 months ago. The relationship was genuine even though we were young. We dealt with a lot of adversities, mainly being her abusive father disliking me, and pushed through each one. Even though it won't seem like it, I really do love her. Her mother, who's 40, and I have always had a great relationship. I admired her deeply because she went through a lot of painful, horrifying, disgusting things in her life, yet was still the sweetest, most optimistic individual I've ever met. A literal angel. Even though she was the mother, my wife was extremely protective of her because she had such an innocence. She moved in with my wife and I about 3 months ago. We have a tiny 1-bedroom apartment, so she's had to sleep on our super uncomfortable couch, which she does happily. After she moved in, our relationship started changing slowly. We would have to keep each other company because my wife works long hours. It turned out that we were into a lot of the same things like anime, certain books and certain series. Things my wife doesn't care for. So we bonded over those things at first. Then she started opening up more about her life and I became even more admired and protective over her. I just wanted her to be happy and loved for once. Soon, I started noticing her physically. She's a thicker woman, which I always secretly had a thing for, even though my wife is very petite and thin. It seemed like she would start wearing a little less pajama shorts instead of pajama pants, for example. And her thick legs always looked extremely soft and smooth. She used to always wear socks, but then she started going barefoot and I found her feet kinda chubby, really cute. Little things would turn me on to the point where I would masturbate to her. A week ago, she came back to our place crying. I immediately went to comfort her and I held her on the couch. I kept asking her what was wrong and she refused to tell me out of embarrassment. I kept telling her it was okay to tell me and she broke down and admitted that she feels extremely fat, old and undesirable. Said that she saw a group of guys laughing at her. I honestly started crying too and tried my best to convince her that she was not any of those things, and then something just came over me. I started kissing her. I thought she would push me away and slap me, but instead she started kissing me back. It got extremely heated and long story short, we had sex. Well-made love would be more fitting. Afterwards she broke down and decided to get a hotel to stay in instead of with us. I understood. But ever since, when my wife goes to work, I drive to her room and we have sex. I've begun craving her to an uncomfortable level, every tiny thing allot her. Even her flaws are delicious to me. She seems to really want me too and is honestly way more passionate than my wife has ever been. I know that this has to end very, very soon. I fell down a terrible black hole and it's all my fault. Now that I'm stuck in it, I don't even know how to begin to stop. I'm disabled, not amazing. It's Thursday night, and I'm out with a society at my university for the first time. Lots of new faces, lots of questions. A lot of noise, and I, the awkward, almost completely blind guy, cope with it the best I can. Loud environments can be disorienting to say the least when you're missing one of your senses, and the fact that I only know one person doesn't help. I ask someone to point me in the direction of the bar, and as we stand waiting in line, making small talk about where we both come from, what we're studying, what music we're into, etc., I mention that I'm on a computing course. Cue the inevitable questions about how on earth I can use a computer, smartphone at all even though I can't see. Routine, and I'm used to it. Most people don't show so much real interest that I have to talk at length about screen reading technology and alternative iPhone gestures, so I politely explain and casually provide a demonstration by replying to a text. And then comes the kicker. I tell you, mate, it has made my evening to see 2 blind people out on the town, not letting their disabilities stand in the way of having a good time. I brought a friend along who is also blind. I grit my teeth and spin my standard line, it's no good sitting around indoors letting it get you down, etc. Fast forward to Monday, and I climb into a taxi. The driver, an Asian gentleman, informs me that he has many problems in his life. Problems that, until today, he has been concerned about. But after seeing someone with no sight, he is sure that God made me this way for a reason and is thanking the aforementioned deity for his lot in life, convinced now that his issues are insignificant in comparison. I am an atheist. I experience this on a daily basis. My disability is the first thing the majority of people pick up on, and a sense of awe, misplaced respect and false praise isn't far behind. But the fact is, I am not awe-inspiring. I get up in a morning and make my way in the world because I have to, because the alternative is a cop-out and a waste. I fend for myself, get around unaided when I can, and don't let my disability get me down because I've never known any different. But as a person, I suffer from terrible social anxiety, drink too much, have very few friends, no romantic relationship history to speak of, and find myself completely void of motivation every hour of the day. So no, I'm not amazing. I am disabled. I find steps and doorways with a stick rather than my eyes. But I am just as hopeless as anybody else on this planet, and damn if I don't have just as much potential. So please give your respect to people who do truly good things, rather than those who are just trying to live their lives. Married to a spiraling hole of debt and loneliness. My husband has a temper. He takes Adderall but that really doesn't help. He blows up almost every day and makes me more and more depressed. Yesterday it was because the iron spilled water on his shirt. Up until 2 days ago he was unemployed since March 2014. He now works at a bookstore. In that time we moved to another state because he wanted to work in the film industry but never got a job doing it. I bought us a house so we didn't have to rent. I've been our only source of income, but it hasn't been enough. We have $5,000 credit card debt now. He got his real estate license in May but only because my parents gave us $20,000 so he could pay off his school loans. He went into default when he quit his job and couldn't get his license until it was paid off. He quit real estate after a month. Hasn't done a thing with the license. I miss living in my home state and seeing my family and friends. It's just us here and it's completely destroying my soul. My mom, who has been divorced, keeps telling me that he was the one who was there for me when I was in the hospital last year, needed brain surgery. She's siding with him and I have no one to turn to. I can't stress her out because she has stage 4 colon cancer. Yes, I know he took care of me, but he has had no motivation. He pressured me into moving and we've gotten ourselves into debt. I cut up my credit card in June but he used his last month. I found out today when I looked at the account to pay it down. We only use my card because his barely works and isn't registered here. I feel like I need to keep giving him a chance, but I'm hanging by a thread. I told him a few months ago that if he didn't get a job I would be leaving him. He called me superficial, got very angry, but I've done nothing but watch him play video games since he quit his job. He was offered a job at Best Buy last year, his only other interview, but turned it down. I've grown to hate Diablo 2 or 3 or whatever it is. He finally has a job, still doesn't know how much he's getting paid, but when will it end? I've already told him we're selling the house next year. We'd have to pay capital gains tax if we did it now. I get headaches 3 to 4 days a week post-surgery and stress-related. I just needed to tell someone the full story. I'm Andy family and people don't understand. I grew up in a household with 2 parents that made many mistakes with my upbringing. My father was, and may still be, an alcoholic. My mother was passive and never stood her ground when it came to my father's abuse towards her. My mother was also not financially stable enough to leave my father. Once my mother had enough abuse, she moved us into a 1-bedroom apartment that she could barely afford. She was often verbally abusive to me. My mother married a series of crappy men from when I was 16 until current. She's been married a total of 4 times. My mother has tried to shove every man she married down my brother and I's throats, trying to sell them all as potential father replacements. She often took the side of the man she was with, even if he was wrong. I was kicked out of my house by my first stepfather 2 weeks before high school graduation. The man ended up threatening to kill us all in the end and was admitted to the psych ward that he was employed with as a counselor. My brother and mother have always hated me. My brother was jealous that I had friends and was always so lucky. My mother hated me for the same reasons, with an added splash of jealousy for me being thin. I always had issues growing up because I had a lazy eye. They seem to forget the psychological abuse I suffered daily at school. They only remember the newfound confidence I gained when my eye was straightened at the age of 24. Neither my father, mother, nor my brother have ever acted truly happy for me with anything in life. I have always heard the phrase "must be nice." If anything happened positive, I've felt like I needed to downplay it. Don't parents want better lives for their children than they had? I have never been married and I do not have children because I saw the effects of such through my parents. They both probably could have lived happy lives if my brother and I had never been born and they were able to part ways. The last time I spoke to my mother, I asked her to get to the bottom of an issue with her husband making inappropriate comments to my then-boyfriend's 13-year-old daughter. She blamed me for raising her to be just like you, which made no sense to the issue at hand. She took her husband's side and yelled "fuck you" into the phone 3 times to make sure I heard her. She is a toxic, overdramatic woman that I have an impossible time attempting to have a relationship with, so I cut her off. The last time I spoke to my father was several years ago. I honestly can't remember when I spoke to him or what was said. All I know is that he never called to check on me when I stayed gone for days at a time. He never asked if I had enough food. He never seemed concerned for my well-being at all. I firmly believe that at the point in time, my father only wanted me to live with him because he didn't want to pay child support anymore. As for my brother, I have not spoken to him since he asked me for $50 while I wasn't working. I lost my job and had been actively looking for 3 months. My boyfriend at the time was supporting me and his 4 children. We barely had enough money to get by on. My brother had quit his job and wasn't working for months. I offered him dinners with my family and I to get him by on. When he asked me for $50 and I told him I didn't have it, he told me to ask my boyfriend, which I refused. He has not spoken to me since. I heard that he lives 2 towns away from me and doesn't have a job. I know if I reach out to him, he'll ask to live with me, which I will not allow. People get on my case about cutting my family off. Honestly, I've been happier without all of them in my life. I am more at peace now than ever and don't regret my decision. There are, of course, several other reasons that I have for not speaking to my family, but there isn't enough time in the day or space to go into it. Family doesn't mean anything to me if they are toxic parts of my life. Everyone in my life has become aware of my scat fetish. I've posted this story already, but I'm posting again because I could really use some advice. It all started a year ago when I sold a tablet of mine to a friend. Without realizing it, I forgot to erase and reset the tablet. On that tablet was some really bad porn videos. It was scat vids, the worst of which was like scat eating, which honestly really grosses me out, and I'd click off the videos almost immediately, but it was all still in my history. I had watched them in the privacy of my own home. That shouldn't follow me like it has. When my friend came across these vids, he showed all my friends. Then someone made a link with my Facebook attached to it with all the history and places the tablet had visited. I don't even remember 90% of those websites, but once again, whatever, not like anyone cares about that, they just want to make fun of me. Somehow that stuff went viral, to the point it seems everyone has seen it. People I don't even know somehow know of me. I can't hold down a job, because within a week of me being there, my co-workers somehow always find out about this incident, and then proceed to really lay into me and cause me to freak out and just walk out of the job. I've left 3 jobs because of this. One place was a general store, and people kept calling and pretending that they were pissed because someone put stuff in their food. My store was getting flooded with these calls, until I just couldn't take it anymore and just walked out of the store without saying anything. The last place I worked, I didn't make it a day before the whole crew figured out who I was, and well, that caused me to never go back as well. I've come to realize this will never stop following me. No one has any sympathy, they just want to make fun of me right in front of me. I have no friends left because of it. My family has tried to force me into a psych ward, and I can't leave this state because I can't hold down a job long enough to save any money up. I have panic attacks every time someone brings it up to me, out of pure embarrassment. I just don't understand why people are so mean, or why they won't drop it. I don't understand why people want or feel the need to make another human being want to kill themselves over something that doesn't affect them in any way. I'm stuck feeling as though I'll never be able to escape this, and I know I don't deserve this, I just others did as well. I killed my cat when I was a kid. I was 12 years old at the time. I just got back home from school after picking up my little sister from her bus, and my mother wasn't home. My sister went straight to her bedroom to play with her dolls. She told me they would be back at 5:30. I got home at 5 o'clock. Knowing her, she would take longer than that. I was really bored because I would have to wait to have dinner. So I played with the family cat, Tabitha. Tabitha was an amazing cat. I would always buy yarn and laser pointers. She and me had a lot of fun together. We all loved Tabitha. Everything was fine until I thought of this one, very regretful, idea. Tabitha was on the sofa with me and I opened up the ottoman. I pointed the laser pointer in the ottoman storage compartment and she pounced inside of the ottoman. I closed it shut and waited for Tabitha to react. She didn't. After about 10 minutes I got bored again and decided to just let Tabitha out. When I opened, I saw her laying there and assumed she just gave up. I touched her. No response. I picked her up and put her on the tile. Still nothing. At that point I was worried, and then I realized she had no pulse. My heart jumped. Tabitha suffocated in the ottoman. I was crying at that point, and I was praying that Tabitha would be fine. I was so desperate that I even tried performing a CPR based on my knowledge from movies that I watched. But nothing worked. I killed the family cat. I eventually accepted her death and thought that I absolutely cannot tell anybody that this happened. Thank God Amanda is still in her room, I mumbled to myself. I put Tabitha in a shoebox and ran far away from our house, at most 2 or 3 miles. I took a shovel and dug a hole, and I carefully laid Tabitha in the hole. I covered it up and ran back. I check on my little sister. Still in her bedroom. About half an hour later my mother pulled up to the house. "Hi. How was your day at school, Op?" my mother said as she opened the door. "The cat got out the house." I lied. My mom was pissed and told my sister. My mom stormed out of the house to search for Tabitha. My sister was worried sick. Tabitha was an indoor cat. My mom gave up after she took 5 trips outside. My mom has eyes like a hawk. So she was pretty confident that she could never find the cat and it was far away. My mom told my sister. I felt so bad, and I still do today. I feel like such an asshole for killing an innocent, harmless animal. It's like I murdered a person. My sister was crying for an hour and my mom ever shed a tear or two. I am so going to hell. Thanks for listening to Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more videos. Click the right box for the Confessions playlist. Let us know in the comments what you think about these stories.